Hello, all, and welcome to Frame by Frame, where we take a closer look at iconic film scenes. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today, in this episode, we will be discussing a scene from the film Tar. We are huge fans of this movie, and honestly, this is a great excuse for us to revisit this film again. We actually recently got to collab with the Media Lit Pod, and so we got to talk in depth about this movie again. It was an amazing conversation. Go check them out. But today, we are going to be doing a frame by frame on the Juilliard lecture scene. If you have seen this movie, you know exactly which scene we're talking about. If you haven't seen this movie, we include a link in the show notes where you can go watch that scene. I think it is a pretty great standalone scene in isolation regardless. Go watch it and then come back and listen to the rest of our conversation. So, Sarah, what happens in this Juilliard lecture scene?
Yeah, so in this scene, a student lets Lydia Tár know that he is not into Bach, and she sets him straight and tries a variety of tactics to prove him wrong. And it's an incredible scene.
Yeah. This is a scene that like shines so bright in this film. And there's so many great scenes in this movie, but this one I think we talked about for so long and gushed about for so long in our conversation when we reviewed Tar. So this is our excuse to dive in a little bit more. So Sarah, I'm curious, this Juilliard lecture scene in Tar, what makes this scene iconic to you?
I mean, everything about it, but that's not really a great answer to this question. So I'm going to say that the cinematography and the way that it is filmed as one continuous take makes this scene from Tar so iconic to me. I think especially because it's such a switch up to what you have been seeing throughout the film, and it's you feel the difference of what's happening in this room because of the cinematography. And I was really focused on that this time around, and the way that the camera will linger in a certain place so you can like pause and catch your breath, and then the way that the camera will then like depart and move as we kind of go to the next phase of Lydia's response to this student, and the way that the camera and her emotional reaction to what he's doing are so intertwined with each other. It's a masterful scene, but I really, really love the way that the camera moves throughout this. What about you? What about this scene from Tar is so iconic to you?
Yeah, I mean, plus one to everything. But I think the thing that stands out to me most that I remember feeling so much the first time watching the scene and yet again is representative of what Tar does so well, the film in general, which is that there's so much meat packed into this scene thematically, and the ideas that this scene alone is introducing and looking to explore. So we have commentary about social media and the way that social media shapes our opinions so strongly. We have the idea of how do you assess art and an artist? Is it based on their identity and their choices in their lives, or is it based on their art alone? She has a whole rant about like the criteria around rating sheets and rating artists. There's also this idea around like obliterating yourself for the sake of art and for the composer and performance. And so I just was thrilled mentally, feeling the excitement of all of these super nuanced ideas and themes and theses that are baked into this one 6-minute scene. It feels like there's like entire PhD theses written in just one line that Tar says or emotes. And I think that was really exciting to me, is just how much meat there is in the ideas philosophically that this scene is looking to introduce and invite you as the viewer into. And I think that's representative of Tar as a film in general. It's packed with so much rich, nuanced ideology and ideas that it's asking you to wrestle with. And this scene alone is a great example of the feast of themes and ideas that it's looking to invite you to come and dine at.
Yeah, there is so much meat in just this one scene, and it's so densely packed, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. And I think, again, that's a good balance that Tar strikes throughout. There is so much meat in this film, and there's so much to chew on in every single scene, in almost every line, it feels like. But you never feel overwhelmed by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's partially due to like how engaging the writing is and the great cinematography and all the things, but it's also because of Cate Blanchett's performance too. Like
Yeah.
she is so captivating on screen in everything, but especially in this film, you see her just completely commanding it. And what really stood out to me in this scene, watching it just by itself, is how much of the time her back is to the camera. And yet
Yes.
she is still so captivating to watch. Like, I don't care if she's speaking with her back turned to me, I'm still locked in on her because she has um, such a presence and is so like magnetic in this scene. I don't even need to see your face to understand the emotions that you're feeling and everything that's going, like you can have your back to me and I still understand what's going on. And I thought that that was also a really interesting way for this scene to kind of subvert our expectations a little bit. And yeah, we see a lot of her back in this, but it doesn't lose any of the meaning. You don't find yourself like drifting off, but every time she turns her back to the camera, it's purposeful and it's meaningful. And it also reminds that you are in this place, in this room, and there are people all around her too. And so you just feel like you're in it with her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's such a testament to Cate Blanchett's like physicality that she brings to this role, and the choices and nuances of when she does the bravado and when she is still. So there's moments where, especially in the part of the scene where she's on stage and her back and she's kind of silhouetted, she almost knows her angles. Like there's things that she does where she'll like glance over her shoulder and her shoulders are at an angle and it's this menacing invitation to like lean into her and she's speaking quietly. But then she'll have this outburst of emotion and she does this thing with her hands and she almost like knows her angles and like strikes the pose and then strikes the next pose as she's speaking. But it's often coincided with the emotion and passion that she's experiencing and emoting. So when she's quieter and menacing, she's asking you to lean in because she's leading you to the moment where she's going to explode into this big point that she's going to make. And I think that's really interesting to see the way that her like physical gestures feel like outbursts of emotion and passion that she has that like cannot be contained. And I think that's really neat to see is the physical way she takes up space is tied to the emotional state, is tied to the intellectual points that she's making as well.
Another thing that I was really aware of in this scene is how her movement and the camera were tied together.
Mm.
There's this like really subtle movement that she does when she's at the conductor's podium, and before she moves to the piano she almost like leans over before she takes a step, and it's almost like that is the cue for the camera to come and follow her. And so there are these little things throughout where she like, it's almost like Lydia Tarr knows that the camera is there and is like, okay,
Yeah.
camera, follow me. Let's go over here.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so seamless and natural that Tar is doing this dance with the camera, and
Mm.
it feels right. It feels so natural what the camera is doing with this character, and the way that the blocking changes and she's moving about the room. I was just so enamored by all over again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's fitting for the character because it's like at a if you break out of the fourth dimension in the meta level, like Lydia Tar knows how to be in front of the camera. She loves to be in front of the camera, and so it makes sense that she is in control of the cinematographer of the movie Tar because Lydia Tar is that powerful. Like we buy it, we buy into it. I also think that the camera choices of when it's a wide shot and when it's leaned in closely is really significant. So we start with seeing her, this larger than life presence on stage. She really looks like this huge, imposing figure. The angle of the camera is at a little bit lower. So we're kind of like in the lecture audience looking up at her. But when she goes and sits down at the camera almost punches in so much closer than I want it to be. I was uncomfortable. I don't want to be that close to Lydia Tarr. I don't want to be noticed and in her presence that closely, but that ordering is correct. We needed to feel the size of her presence so that when we are invited in closer, we're kind of scared. I was kind of shaking in my boots too, to be sitting almost at the piano bench together with her, knowing that she's about to like maybe rip me to shreds. But we start with it being larger than life so that when we punch in, we're like, oh, can I get that close? I don't know. But the camera, we're kind of at the behest of the camera. Like it is in control. And so we have to be that close to her. And so it also helps us empathize with the student too, who goes from being far away from her to being like right up next to her and kind of seeing his shaking leg and the anxiety and the nervousness that he has. We empathize because we feel that too as we are invited in closer to Tar's presence.
Yeah, I don't know that I would wanna sit on the piano bench with her either. I
Nope.
would be too nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved that moment of her at the piano too, because then there's, an extra element for her to express herself. Like Cate Blanchett is amazing, and she's doing so much in this scene with her voice, with her body language, all of these things. And then she sits at the piano, and there's yet another way for her to express herself. And you
Mm-hmm.
hear how this melody that she's playing is changing, and she has these like it's like light and whimsical, and then it's like she has this silly moment and all of this, but you still feel that stress because it's Lydia Tarr. And what is she
Yeah.
going to do next? And that moment when she like turns to Max and is like, okay, what do you have to say? It creates so much anxiety in me because I'm like, oh, what is he gonna say? Because she
Mm-hmm.
just put on this great performance trying to get him to agree with her. She's used to people agreeing with her. What is he gonna do? And he disagrees. And that's when you see yet another part of who Lydia is. And
Yeah.
you see her anger, her frustration, all of this. And I just love all of those phases that she goes through. Even in
Yeah.
that like short little bit at the piano bench, you see so many different sides of her just in that, as she's trying to
Mm.
convince him that she's right. And then once Max disagrees, okay, you're going to see a whole different side of Tar.
Yeah, and she's on the move again. Like it's right after he disagrees where once again she almost can't help but get up. Like the emotion and passion and conviction she has is overflowing in her that she has to get up again and be on the move. And one of the other great camera moments that I loved in this sequence is when in the almost the third act of the scene, because I say the scene can be broken up into three sections. She's on stage and she's at the piano and then she's walking. Uh, in that third act of the scene, when she's walking, as she's speaking, she's in the foreground, but we see Max in the background and he's hazy. It's blurry because obviously she's in focus, but he looks so small and so tiny. And I think that's also a really interesting comparison where she is this powerful force and he is feeling smaller and powerless and being made to feel as small as he looks, as she's this imposing figure asserting her power, asserting her dominance over him. And he is this teeny tiny speck in the background. And we know who that is because he's still sitting at the piano in that spot. But I thought that that visual comparison to make us feel how tiny that student is probably feeling was so well done too.
Ugh, yes, it's so good. It's so brilliant the way that all of that happens, and the it always feels imbalanced to what we're seeing
Yeah.
on the screen. And that's really impressive to me because Tar is the only one that's moving, and yet wherever the camera lingers, you still
Mm.
feel like the shot is in balance. And so just the the deliberate planning that it must have taken to ensure that everybody is in the same spot, that Cate Blanchett knew exactly where she had to stop and when, so that these shots never feel because they all feel beautiful, like they all are
Yeah.
really lovely to look at, and so for all those details to come together perfectly to make this scene look as good as it does, like wow, shout out to this team, they did incredible.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, One other thing that I wanted to like give credit to this scene is the there's obviously, as I mentioned, so much meat here, so many theses that are being made one after the other. And I think that the way it's constructed is incredibly smart. It offers us a window into like the logic in the way that Lydia Tarr thinks about these big complex ideas, but it's also just really great writing for us as the viewer to like keep up and follow. So it's not like this random smattering of concepts and ideas. One always leads to the next. And so while each one is big and meaty, there's like a linear logic that we're following. So she starts with don't be so eager to be offended, right? The idea of like like boring conformity. I think she says the narcissism of small differences leads to the most boring conformity. And then she then poses an example. If you were conducting an orchestra and you are being rated, what would you want to be assessed by? And then she brings this concept of what is the criteria for rating artists? Because your criteria is different from my criteria. Now let's like reckon with that, you know? And then she leads into the next thing. And so I just thought that was really smart of the film to do so that we are not lost as the viewer and we're like thrilled by this unraveling like set of ideas one after the other. But it also showcases how clear and logical Lydia's line of thinking is as well. And kind of her strength as a lecturer too, of like leading you to her final point by making a series of subpoints that each seem to make sense and then they seem to make sense again. Do I agree with all of her ideas? No, but there is a clear argumentative line of reasoning. And I think that was really fascinating to like notice a little bit more this time around because the first time I was thrilled by it to feel like there was these constantly opening up of ideas, but seeing how it was constructed and noticing that this time around was really interesting too.
Yeah, there's a logic to what she's doing. It's almost like she's trying to like persuade
Yeah.
not only Max but everybody, and that's really how I viewed it, especially what she's doing at the piano is, we're going to keep it light and fun, we're going to make jokes, maybe that'll get you on my side. Okay, that won't get you on my side. Okay, how about I hit you with some of these intellectual concepts? Oh, that's not going to do it. Okay, let me be like curt and cruel. Like maybe that'll get you to submit. So I love how all of those things play out, and like you said, you explore so many different themes while also learning a lot more about Lydia too. And I
Mm,
think that that's really smart to do.
yeah. Yeah. So good. So good. Okay. Any other last big things that we wanted to mention about this scene before we wrap?
Yeah, just one thing really quickly is I love that moment when she takes off her blazer before she goes and sits at the piano. I think it's so interesting cuz visually it's mostly like blacks and grays and browns, especially like when she is at the conductor's podium and
Mm,
you just see her in all black basically. And so then
yeah.
I thought that her taking off her blazer was really interesting visually because now we have this like pop of blue that is
Mm,
on the frame, and especially like when she comes into the seating too and her back takes up like a good portion of the frame, you have another color in there. But I also thought it was so interesting to go from intimidating, imposing kind of conductor Tar to I'm just in this pretty blue shirt and I'm playing the piano in this really happy, lovely way. So I thought it served so many different goals just by her taking off her jacket when she
Mm.
did, and where that lands in the scene. So just every little thing in this scene I feel like is timed to perfection, and everything has meaning, which I think is part of why this scene is so incredible.
It's also it's also like the like metaphorical equivalent of her like rolling up her sleeves and being like, oh
Yes.
man, all right, let's go. I'm about to deconstruct your entire worldview. Like,
Get
time to
ready.
do some work, you know? Yeah, yeah. It's so good. It's so good. I have to give a shout out to the piano closing slam, I think, from the student. Uh, I know that that is loud, but when I watch the scene again, it's louder than I expect it to, and it's such an exclamation point and this defiance from the student against everything that Tar has just waxed poetic about. And I think that the way that that reverberates and creates this like awkward moment of like, oh, this did not go well, you know, this does not end well, I think was really great. So just like I felt the awkwardness of when someone does that in a room and you're like, all right, no problem, cool. Just how much that echoes in the room was well done. So really great way to wrap a really dramatic scene with some more drama.
Yes, yes. The closing of the piano is, yeah, that is impactful for sure. And I think the other part of that that I find so fascinating is what he says after that is also pretty quiet. Like
Yeah,
he's not
yeah.
shouting. He made his point by slamming that piano. He doesn't have to yell. And so I thought that that was also notable, those two things together.
Yep. Yeah. So good. I love that he stands his ground because for most of the film, we see so many people bending to her. So honestly, I just was kind of thrilled to see, like, yeah, stick with your convictions. Do I agree with all of them? No, but like, someone needs to
Yeah.
stand up to this woman.
Max is the hero we need in this
Yeah,
moment.
he really is. He really is. All right. Well, this was our scene breakdown of this iconic scene, the Juilliard lecture scene from the film Tar. The entire film in general, we're huge fans of, as we mentioned. Really incredible film. Well executed, lots to sink your teeth into. Can't recommend it enough. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Frame by Frame. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about this scene from Tar. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Movies and Us Pod, or email us at moviesanduspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on Movies and Us and our other podcast, TV and Us. Keep an eye out on this feed. We'll be back soon with another Movies and Us review of a film. We hope you have an amazing week in the meantime, and we'll see you again very soon.